Okay, we're good. We're good. We're good. Good evening, and welcome back to whatever this is. Who knows? As heads up, I guess. Um, a couple of buddies of mine have demanded that while I'm doing these, I also pay attention to a Discord channel. So if I occasionally seem to stop and it sounds like I'm addressing some douchebags, that's because I am. Good, good. Now, today we said we would talk a little bit about the yes, that's right, Google and Chrome, and why in my opinion, at least, Chrome is bad for Google, and why Google itself is not doing so well. So, I mean, you say, but hey, douchebag, Google is a multi-billion-dollar company that's multi-billion, isn't almost $1 trillion company that's making so much money and that controls everything that everyone has ever done. How can they not be doing so well? Interestingly enough, Google itself has never really had, how should I say, Google itself has always struggled with defining who it is. And I do include in that its sort of early mission statement of don't be evil, which obviously they don't, or at least I hope, for goodness sake, that they don't continue claiming these days, because well, Google is one of the most evil tech companies there is. So, it's interesting in that because they should, how should we say this? They have the potential to do a lot, but instead they've sort of, shall we say, have continued to, they've let momentum sort of continue. No, I'm not drunk. No, no, I'm not gonna say that. They have let they have essentially coasted off momentum for a long time, and that's not to say that there's not a lot of good work being done at Google, but rather that instead of, so originally Google's mantra was, or mission statement was, to organize the world's information, and that's great, except obviously that's not the current mantra anymore, right? And of course this was in addition to don't be evil, but yes, well, they are quite evil, you're right. No, they're not that evil, honestly. Google could do much worse, let's put it that way. But no, the problem is that Google as a company has sort of lost sight um of what it's supposed to do, what it is, and what it wants to do. And that's all sorts of tragic, right? Because you have a lot of money, why can't you use that and do something interesting? Just like how we have a whole bunch of building materials and we can't seem to make even a single bloody building out of this. Anyway, that's besides the point. We're just gonna do this anyway. So the point is, going back to the topic at hand, and no, no, I'm not gonna talk about something else. Going back to the topic at hand, Chrome, why Chrome is bad? Well, in certain ways, Chrome isn't the problem per se, just like how Android is not the problem, right? Like, I have opinions on on everything, but on this specifically, where using Chrome or hiding behind the open source nature of both Chrome and Android to somehow pay lip service to the ethics and to the how should we say, to the people that build these companies, right? Like the people that build these original Googlers were attracted by the sort of openness. That's the less that's said about the 20% time, the better. And essentially the point was, you know, it was run as a startup for longer than it should have run as a startup, but at the same time, as Google itself transitions out of being a startup, it doesn't know what to do, right? So essentially you could call it like Android and Chrome. If we were to not pay attention to what the hell is that shit? What is that? What the fuck is that? What the? NVIDIA, what did you do to this shit? Anyway, okay, never mind. If we were to not pay attention to, oh, that's pretty though. If we were to not pay attention to the ethics within the open source, or yeah, of the open source, and actually just merely talk about Chrome and Android, and Google as an organization, they've run their organization in a way that makes it feel like a startup, but it's not, right? And a lot of tech companies run into this problem. My boy Elon definitely counts as a tech company, right? And so like there are obvious reasons why you cannot run a consist on you can't you can't run constantly as a startup, because it's just impossible for you to do anything to no, that's not true. Let's rephrase that. A conglomerate, when you become a conglomerate, you cannot run a conglomerate like a startup for a variety of reasons. But the main reason is diversification. And when you're so diversified and you have your fingers in so many different pies, it's impossible to run your company as anything but a company, because by the time you, oops, 1 2, okay, we're good. Like because it's if I seem at loss for words, it's not because I'm high. Shut up. For your information, you know very well that I've never done any mind altering medications, drugs, whatever. Yeah, I know you just want to see me fail. It's running a conglomerate like a startup only works if it's single purpose, because only then is it truly still, does the culture still work? Because once you have, like, that's why, as an aside, that's why Netflix works so well, right? Because it is run semi kind of like a startup, but at the same time it's also truly single service, right? Like, and of course my boy Reed has some very interesting managerial thoughts that I think a lot of CEOs could learn from, but they probably also won't learn very much, because it's you have to have started like that. And so why Chrome and actually Android both are bad for Google is exactly that reason, is that they are all these products are being run as a startup, and there's no overarching control. Even with my boy, even when my boy Eric was in there, or my boy Larry, like they didn't really have a sense of overarching strategy, and that works fine for an internet startup that's, well, I mean, I say startup, that works fine for an internet company that is building sort of off its own, that's building off its own success and has, you know, and can maintain growth. But there comes a time when that's no longer possible, and then what will you do, right? And I guess luckily for a lot of internet companies, that time is not yet here. I used the wrong glass for this. Oops. That's all right. Didn't look right. Yeah, and that time isn't yet here. So let's talk about Google. Let's talk about Chrome. Chrome was built in an age of Internet Explorer, and when using Internet Explorer was, or when Internet Explorer was prevalent, and was a giant memory hog, and actually led to a lot of security leaks for the people involved who were using it, because it was kind of bad at what it was doing, because it was a bloated fractal nightmare, right? Because it was maintained by Microsoft, and Microsoft needed to keep so many legacy interests on board that they really had no way of messing with Internet Explorer. And that's fine. Like, you wanted to disrupt the market. That's beautiful. In fact, I was actually one of the earliest users of Chrome. I was actually using the what do you call it, the nightly version of Chromium project before it was fully released. I cloned my own repository and I built it from source because I'm a fucking idiot. Ignore that word. Because I believed in early Chrome. But think about what Chrome has become, right? It's become this bloated fractal nightmare with huge security issues that is now holding essentially 60% to 80% of the web hostage, because everyone is using Chromium engine. And so it's literally become what it was built to replace. And you can, and really only Google can accomplish that, because they have the money to just keep throwing stuff into Chrome and thinking, oh look, we'll do this and we'll do this and we'll have Chrome Remote Desktop. I actually used Chrome Remote Desktop for a long time because it was so stupidly convenient. But over the years, it just kept adding and adding and adding and adding. This looks really bad, by the way. We're gonna have to completely rethink this. Now that might be better. Yeah, they just kept adding to it and like turning it really into a bloated fractal nightmare. And it's just, it's nonsensical. Why would they need to do that, right? Like, obviously we understand why Google needs Chrome, because as the prevalence of ad blockers and as Google's revenue source, or as they try to diversify away from ads, the more information you can have about your users, the better. And so if you're logged into Chrome and you go on YouTube, amazing, great, Google loves you for that. But at the same time, that's you know, you've literally not only just bought into the ecosystem, you have bought into the entire, you have given your entire life over. And honestly, for most people in this world, it doesn't matter how much is their life really worth. And of course, I say that knowing that it's going to take Well, yeah, I know your life isn't worth that much. No. To explain, one of my buddies claims that his life isn't worth a lot. Um, running joke. But the 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 point remains that. Well, sorry, that's not the point. The point remains that for Google, the Chrome, even if it's a bloated nightmare, is worth a lot because it's sort of it does so much for Google, right? Like if you go to YouTube, if you go to any of the Google syndicated websites, the fact that you're on Chrome and the fact that you probably logged into either Gmail or YouTube account means that Google literally knows everything about your life in order to sell you better ads, even if you have ad blockers on, right? And that's not insidious at all. And I really do mean that because that is good business practice, right? Like that is something that can happen if you establish a monopoly and then you take advantage of that monopoly. And that's really, at the end of the day, that's what Google did. They established a monopoly and then they fucked everyone over with it, and that's kind of admirable. But that doesn't but that's sort of exactly why I say that Chrome is bad for Google, because at this particular juncture in Google's history, antitrust will not stop. If the governments lose one thing, they're just gonna come back with another and another and another. And the fact that Google has Chrome and has dominated the market with Chrome, and partially the fact that Chrome is just a bad piece of bloated nightmare software, will come back to haunt them, right? And so it stands to reason that if Google really wanted to clean up its image and not be dumb, not be evil, one of the ways they could do it is by not hiding behind the open source label that they have hid behind for so long, but instead, show some goodwill and make Chrome not shit. If it sounds a little bit like I'm a jilted lover, in some ways I am, because I as I said before, I really believed in the, oh my god, we're at 18 minutes. I really believed in Google for the first few years, like as they were expanding out of search, as they were trying to do all these fun things or novel things. I thought Google, if there was one company that could do it, it was the one company that could, allow employees to do more than uploaded old bureaucracy like Microsoft. And yet, if we actually look at it, in the past, I guess yeah, we could say a decade, Google has become the bloated nightmare bureaucracy, and Microsoft is the one that's, I'm not going to say cool, but at least like trying really hard to reinvent itself. And actually, let me just double check one thing. Yeah, and it's quite interesting that both Google and Microsoft actually are led by the Indian diaspora, right? Which is amazing. Like I genuinely, I have great respect for that entire diaspora, because they've managed to put themselves in a place where I guess we as Chinese people will never go, and that's great, and mad respects to them. I don't know where I was going with. No, I was not going on a racist tangent. Thank you very much. And yes, I agree that this looks quite ugly, but you know what? Fuck you. I'm the one doing this. Uh, oh, I'm gonna. Oh yeah, that's the other thing I wanted to talk about vis-a-vis YouTube. YouTube blocked my was it Architecture 2 video because I used a bad word in it, but then unblocked it the moment I put in a challenge, and I thought that was quite cool. I thought that was good. Um, or at least that deserved a certain amount of respect, right? Like, obviously they don't want to just argue with every douchebag who wants to hold on, let me just finish this real quick. Who wants to unfreeze his channel? Yeah, so we're at 21 minutes. I can't let this go on. Okay, so let's summarize. In summary, Chrome is bad. I like how I started wanting to talk about how Chrome is bad for Google and really only managed like 3 words. Oh, it's because Google is a monopoly and they're gonna get sued. We will, I promise, revisit this subject when I guess next time maybe we'll just put on a flight simulator or something so that we can actually talk about it instead of me trying to talk while building whatever crap it is that I'm trying to build here. And with that, yeah, thank you very much for watching. In conclusion, remember, don't use Chrome, download Firefox. Have a good day.